projects here at the Department of Education on the HTT team, one of the 3 team members here. I also want to hand it over to my colleague Charlie and Ellen, who some of you might know very well, to give them a chance to introduce themselves. So Charlie, why don't you go first?
Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. I'm Charlie Kenyon, Special Assistant to the Commissioner, and I've been working with John and Ellen on this project and very excited that we're here at the launch.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Ellen Schultz. I'm part of this great team. We're excited that you're here and we're at this point and look forward to meeting with you here.
Fantastic. Thanks, Charlie. Thanks, Ellen. And before we kick it off, I wanted to hand over the floor to our fantastic Chief Performance Officer here at the State Department of Education, who oversees this entire project amongst many, many others. Ajit Gopalakrishnan, would you like to kick us off today?
Great. Thanks, John. Thanks, Charlie and Ellen. Fantastic team. We only look good because of all the good work that you guys do. So thank you for everything that you do. And congratulations to the grantees on this call who have been selected to receive this grant. It was super competitive, as you will see, and we appreciate your willingness to jump into this work. We are committed to this work and the underlying model that you already know what was expected, and you'll hear more about it in this discussion here. We are really glad that you are committing to that, to the rigor and to the expectation here. And please know that we are with you and committed with you to helping accelerate student learning, especially in mathematics and especially in that middle school to high school transition where we know our academic growth tends to lag. And as it pertains to the math standards, things do change and evolve in those grades. So we're really excited about this work. This has the attention not just of the SDE, but definitely of the Office of the Governor at the state level. And also several national groups are looking to this work. Not to put any pressure on any of you, but just to say that this is something that we all care about when we commit to this work. And we will be doing a rigorous evaluation of this work too. So when we get to the slides, you'll see we'll talk about how we want you to focus on the instructional aspect and that real day-to-day tutor, student, teacher interaction, because we want that to be the richest so that the learning can be maximized. So that's really our goal here with you. So we're really excited that you're part of this, and thank you for joining this kickoff event. I'm going to turn it back to John. I'll try to hang on for as long as I can, John, and if I do drop off, I know you're in very good hands.
Thanks, Ajit. Please stay as long as you'd like. So before we jump in, I just want to give you a sense of who is in this program. As Ajit said, this was a competitive grant. It is not a given that your district was selected. This was not a formula grant, right, where every district was entitled to money. You all worked very hard. You and your teams worked very hard on thinking about writing and submitting an application that our team found compelling enough to give funding for. So I just want to start by saying congratulations, like Ajit did, and letting you know that we weren't able to fund every district that applied. We only chose the ones that met at least 80% on our rubric. And so congratulations to you all for that. There are 44 of you that are participating in this high dosage tutoring program. Most are traditional public school districts, but we also have a few charters in here. We have some regional school districts, we have some RESCs, and we have a college-affiliated school district as well. So it's a diverse set of schools and LEAs that are participating. It's also diverse in terms of need. Over half are considered high need, meaning that your free reduced lunch population was more than 43% over the last 10 years or so. And we have about a third that are alliance districts. Every single one of you in your application committed to offering tutoring during the school hours. And this was something that we had stressed and emphasized not only in the application, but in the webinar that we gave back in, I think it was June. And so those who committed to doing in-person during the school day learning were the ones who got the most points, right? So it's not surprising that those of you are offering tutoring during the school day, and most of you are offering tutoring in person as well, which was really exciting for us to be able to see. So just a reminder of sort of what is the overarching vision here and how are we determining whether this is working, right? So our plan is that we are going to implement a research-based HGT model here in Connecticut to accelerate math recovery for students in grades 6 to 9 with a priority on high need students, right? That was something that all of you talked about in your applications. You wanted to focus on those middle grade school students, and you were thoughtful about which students would be receiving it based on their high need status, based on their academic performance, based on other factors that might classify them as a high need student who needs and deserves this type of extra support. This program is starting now. So even though you don't have the funds on hand yet per se, you are technically allowed to start the tutoring services, although we noticed that many of you are going to be waiting until November, December, and then as late as January 8th, which is the last day that you can start this program. And then we are expected, because this is funded with ARPESSER, that this will run through January of next year, of 2025. With the possibility of extension. There's a little bit of nuance to this date that we'll explain at the end, but for now you can expect this funding to be available through January 2025. And we're also really excited that we're partnering with an outside organization called the New Teacher Project, or TNTP, which some of you might be familiar with. They provide technical assistance on a range of matters, and they're going to be partnering with the CSDE on helping to run our community of practices, as well as providing coaching for 10 LEAs. Some of you opted into that in your survey. So we're excited to bring them on board as well, and you'll hear and meet them in a couple of slides. And then what are we sort of orienting around? How are we defining success here? There's really three things that we're looking at. One is, of course, just academic performance of students that are getting the tutoring, right? So those middle school students or students in grades 6 to 8, we're looking at their growth goals on the Smarter Balance assessment. And then for students in grade 9, we're just looking at their overall course grade. Are they earning at least a B or better? Two, another goal of this program was to bring more talent into the state and to support districts that might be facing shortages of educators and add that extra capacity. And so we would love to be able to see a greater pipeline expansion of in-person tutoring. And third is seeing districts believe in this work so much that they're deciding to incorporate this program into their operating budgets year after year after these federal funds have expired. And so for the first metric in particular, we'll be collecting some data at the end of the program, maybe in between as well, to evaluate the success of that.
John, if I might jump in for just one
Please.
second on that point. I just want to emphasize, as John clarified for metric 1, we are looking at our ultimate outcome is the Smarter Balance growth targets for the individual students, for those in grades 6 through 8. And you all should know the growth model that we have for our accountability system, where we expect, we have particular specified scale score growth targets. And in this instance, we are saying students will hit 100% of their target, whoever is receiving this intensive tutoring. And in grade 9, we're looking at, because students tend to get into particular coursework, we're looking at grade in that coursework. So what's not here that I want to mention is we are not interested or not looking at things like NWEA and STAR and iReady and all these other tools. We're not interested in growth on those measures. We're looking particularly at our summative measure. And if it's not the summative measure, then we're looking at, for grade 9, we're looking at course grades, because that's what we feel is most relevant. And that's what we want to be the sole focus of this work, because those are the measures to us that are aligned to the state standards. And that's what we want to focus on. So we're not expecting additional assessments from from you guys to create new things, to just show progress in this case. That's not the interest. The interest, like I mentioned at the opening, is on instruction and making sure that instruction is rigorous and solid. The connection between the tutor and the teacher and the student is tight, using aligned curricula, et cetera. So that's what we want the focus to be. When it comes to additional data, this is something that we'll be defining over the coming months. Sorry, I'm getting an echo. Okay.
I will meet someone, Ajit.
I got it. Thanks. No worries. So yeah, we're not, in terms of this additional data, you know, some of the things we don't have about the tutoring is which students are receiving the tutoring, right? So you're going to identify a subset of your students. So one of the things that we'll want to know is who are those students, and we'll have an external evaluation team who will be in touch with you when the time is right. We will also want to know the dosage, the intensity of the tutoring. And by dosage, think of it as attendance in the tutoring intervention. So if you're offering 3 times a week, 4 times a week, whatever the case may be, it may be the hours of tutoring received by the student, because that will be one of the factors that we'll use to look at effect of this treatment, if you will. So those are sort of few, but there might be a few others, but just know that those are obviously not data that the state has, because this is a very unique specialized intervention. So that is something that will be additional information, but we will try not to ask for things that we already have. We're not going to ask for past Smarter Balanced scores or race of the student and things like that, things we already know. So we're not going to ask you for all that again. So it'll be stuff that we don't have that pertains to the particular intervention. Hope that helps.
Oh, John, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Let me reshare this.
So Scott has a question. So Scott, it would be dosage at the student level. We would want to know the intended dosage at the school level. Of course, that would be a programmatic piece, but we definitely will be interested in knowing student participation in the tutoring. And again, we haven't defined exactly the measure, but I'm expecting hours, but we'll define that more clearly when we get closer to it. Thanks for that question. And if there's any others, please stick them in the chat. And as John's progressing, I can answer those in the chat as well.
Great. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Ajit. Let's keep going. So the CSDE model, I think you're all familiar with, right? You all talked about it in your application, something guardrails that your LEA plans to adhere to when implementing this program over the next year and a half. So what are the key things that you want to have, right? The first is you identified an LEA champion, somebody who's really going to be moving this project forward and kind of keeping it on track. Some of you have identified that. A few of you, I think, were waiting until the grant was awarded to start finding that somebody. If you haven't found that somebody yet, that should definitely be a priority for the next few weeks, because that person's going to be ensuring that this project is moving forward. High quality tutors, we gave you 2 options. One, you can use your own staff, your own local tutors and educators, if that's something that is of interest, and you have, especially for smaller programs that might already have the staff capacity. We also gave you this list here, right, of the 16 different organizations, some that offer in-person, some that offer only virtual. Many of you talked about one of these. It sounded like you conducted interviews in some cases and you picked one that you really liked. We You are not committed to who you spoke about in your application, but we just ask that if you change your mind, if you decided to go with vendor A and you put that in your application, but now you want to go with vendor B, just keep us posted, because we did take note of which vendors were being connected with which districts. But these are the only vendors that can be worked with unless you want to work with your own in-house staff. Target academics, we talked about that, right? This is only for students in grades 6 to 9. Some questions we got. So next year, if you want to continue this program in the fall, right, that 6 to 9 range still applies. So 9th grade students who are in 9th grade this year would not be eligible to receive this service next year because they would be in 10th grade. However, 5th grade students who are graduating into 6th grade next year would be. These next two items here, the frequent tutoring session and the tutor-student ratio, these are really important. And as you can probably imagine, these are the ones when things get really kind of chaotic amongst everything that's going on, are the ones that slip, right? 3 times a week becomes maybe 2 times a week. And maybe a tutor is out for a regular period of time. And so 1 to 4 becomes 1 to 8 or 1 to 10. We're really going to encourage you to try to stick to these guardrails here, the 3 times a week for 30 minutes. Some of you are doing it every day, which was great to see. And then the 1 to 4 ratio. This is what, again, research has found to be the most effective dosage, and it's high dosage at the same time. Small group, high dosage. And so that's what we're trying to aim for this type of intervention. You are welcome to use whichever curricula and programs you like. Many of you talked about that in your applications. If you already have an identified one and you want to now embed it in your tutoring, that's fine. We're not asking you to go out and find something new. Some of you are also going to work with whatever curricula are provided by your partner organization, your tutoring organization that you're working with. That's also fine, so long as it's aligned with the Connecticut state standards. And then lastly, as we said, all of you are doing it during the school day, which was really exciting to see. And then a few are doing virtual tutoring during the school day as well, which is great. I don't think anyone here falls in this red bucket right here, where they're doing before, after, and virtual tutoring. We know some of you are also doing tutoring after school in addition to during school, and that was something that we were excited to see as well. Okay. All right. So
can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
With the tutoring sessions saying they must be 3 times a week, with our schedule, it would be a lot easier if we could do 1 week 2 times and the next week 3 times and rotate between those 2. Would that be allowed, or do we have to rework our schedule for these groupings?
We did see that, and we talked about that internally, and we are okay with that. I mean, that's, I think, one area where we can be flexible, because we know that if your schedule is already set up, trying to adjust that, especially during the middle of the year, can create a lot more work than is worth, right? So the cost isn't worth the juice isn't worth the squeeze, right? In that case, but if you are starting from a clean slate and don't have this set up already, or the schedules for students haven't been established, we do really want to see that 3 times a week.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Oops.
And just to confirm, in that 2 times a week scenario, those 2 times are 45 minutes each?
Our schedule is 43.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
So close to it.
Sorry, I was the one I put in the chat about 2 days and 45 minutes each session. Would that be an allowable modification?
So 2 days at 25 minutes. So we probably should talk about that.
45 minutes.
I think it's
each
2
time.
days at
45.
Yes.
That's it. As opposed, is that every week or just every other week?
Every week.
We should probably talk about that because we really want to see it happening at least 3 times a week. And I'm sorry, I can't see who is speaking because I'm presenting, but we can definitely talk offline if that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so I want to talk about where you should prioritize your time over the next few weeks, months, as we get into the end of the semester and start the beginning of the next. And I want to just start by reminding you of all that you've done so far, because you've done a lot to get to this point, right? So if we think about it in these 5 buckets right here, with the first being student and family engagement, in your application, we asked you to tell us how many students are you planning on having participate, and you did that work. You thought about how many students are high need, you thought about how many students are below proficiency in grades 6 to 9, and then you said, this is the number that we want to focus on. Now, if you haven't already, we want you to start identifying those students by name, right? And beginning to engage them and informing their families of their selection into this program, right? And a lot of you had really interesting and creative ideas for how you wanted to do that. There was a whole question dedicated to that. But that's kind of the first thing, is picking the students that you think should get to participate in this program and letting them know. 2 is tutor recruitment. As I mentioned, some of you already began the process of identifying the tutor organization and the staff that you want to have. Now is the time to go back and engage with them even further, right? If that means starting to write that contract, if it means having some more conversations before you make your final call, beginning those additional steps is now is the right time for that. And then also thinking about, you're about to have some new staff joining your school and joining your LEA. What sort of onboarding do you want them to go through? What sort of professional learning do you want them to receive, both before they enter your classrooms and throughout the course of the semesters, right? And there's different resources that we have that we can provide you, in addition to things that your LEA might already have, to help them acclimate and make them feel comfortable. The third bucket, instruction, you've established kind of the guardrails, right? You've established your dosage, your ratios. You've told us what programs you want to use. You told us when and how you're going to deliver the tutoring. And now it's to put this all into motion, right? So this is where you start incorporating it into the student schedules, as well as into the school schedule, right? This is where you begin to acquire any curricula or programs that you might need, right, that you don't already have. And you start to be thinking about what time can we dedicate for classroom teachers, lead educators, to meet with tutors on a somewhat recurring basis, so that there's cohesion between what's being taught in the classroom and being delivered in the tutoring sessions. These 3 buckets right here, everyone, 1, 2, and 3, I would say are about 80% of what you're going to be focusing on the next few weeks. And some of these things have already been done, but this is really the hardest part, I think, of the next few weeks. These last 2 items, I would say, are important, but you've done a lot of the work, right? You've already developed your budget and you submitted it to us in the application. And now you just need to submit it to us formally through EGMS. And if you have a fiscal officer, they can help with that. We'll be in touch with how to get that process set up. But this is where we just say, yep, the budget looks good, and we formalize it, and you can begin the process of getting your money that way. And then lastly, just data use and evaluation, right? Where you discuss, like, how are we going to evaluate progress? What are the mix of different formative and summative assessments that we're going to incorporate into tutoring to ensure that student progress is being made, right? You've already done that part. And now we just wanted to begin preparing that we at the state are going to collect some data. It's not going to be an enormous lift, but here are some of the variables that we're going to be looking to collect. There's the student's name, their SACID, their grade, what school they attend, and then how many hours of tutoring did they receive over the duration, and then who was their tutor and where did they come from, right? And we'll let you know, we'll make the process for collecting this data as simple as possible on you, so that it doesn't feel like an extra burden at all. I'm going to pause here and ask Charlie Ellen to tell me if there's any questions in the chat again, because I can't see it on my end.
None yet.
Okay. All right, let's keep going then. Slide 7. All right, So at the beginning of the call, I mentioned that we had an exciting new partner, TNTP, who is going to be joining this project and partnering with us at the state to run community of practice sessions starting sometime in January. So with that, I want to turn it over to Meredith from TNTP to introduce herself and any team members that are joining her and have her explain sort of what they're going to be offering to this project. So Meredith, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith. I'm a partner at TNTP, and I'm excited to be here with you all today. TNTP is a national nonprofit. We were founded by teachers about 25 years ago, and we work across school districts across the country, working on a variety of projects at all different levels of the system to support educational equity. And we though we're a national organization, I am local. I live in Connecticut and do our work in the Northeast. So I'm excited to be able to do work with you all in my home state. I have with me the other project directors on the team, Amanda Smith and Lauren Barkin. And so they're going to introduce themselves really quickly, and then we'll talk a little bit about the role we'll play in supporting you all to accomplish your goals with this project. So I don't know who wants to go first, but
I can hop in.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Barkin. I am a director at TNTP working alongside Meredith here in the Northeast. I am based in New York City, so pretty local to Connecticut, and really excited to join in this work with you all, specifically because I just finished a project very similar to this, scaling high dosage tutoring across New York City, which was really, really exciting and really daunting. But super successful and has brought so much access to the supports that students need across the city. So really excited to be joining in this work with you all. And I'll pass it to Amanda.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Smith. I am based in Mystic, Connecticut, so really excited to be engaging in this work with you all across the state. As Meredith previewed, we do work all over the country. I've been with TNTP for over a decade, and I've had the opportunity to support districts all over the place, except not yet in Connecticut. So we're really excited to be here with you today.
Thank you both so much. So our role in this project will be to facilitate the community of practice that we'll have monthly. And so, as John mentioned, in January, we'll start a monthly community of practice. We're working to get a survey out to you all about the times and days of the week that work best. We want to find a time when we can get most of you together. The purpose of the communities of practice will be to reflect on best practices. We have been working on high dosage tutoring in a variety of contexts across the country. And so we're really looking forward to bringing forward what we've learned, but also to listen to what you all need. And so to create both a learning space for you all and also a collaboration space that's both proactive in our planning of topics we think you'll need, but also responsive to the things that are coming up as we're executing the project, because we know that invariably you will face challenges, and we want the community of practice to be a space where you all can come together to learn from one another and to leverage the fact that you're part of a collective that's working on this project together and not just your individual district going it alone. That's what I think is really powerful about the way the CSD set up this project. And so we want to be a supportive facilitator of making that as impactful to you all as we can. So that's what we're going to be doing once a month with you. Additionally, as John mentioned, we'll be working with a subset of you on more deliberate, deep strategic advising work. As part of the survey you completed, you had the opportunity to raise your hand if you're interested in working with us more deeply. And so Amanda, Lauren, and I will be facilitating deeper engagements where we'll be doing strategic advising monthly. We'll have the opportunity to come and visit you at your school sites and give both feedback and input on how it's going and problem solve with you all, and go through a real continuous improvement cycle approach. And so should support efforts you already have in place and give you some more depth of support for those that are interested in that. The third thing we're going to do is a newsletter, which we hope will be complementary to the community of practice. and also give you all the opportunity to share your great work that you're doing, and give people access to resources and tools and insights both locally within Connecticut, and then we'll be keeping connected to what's going on more broadly across the nation in regard to this, and bringing those resources to you all as well. So that's something that you'll receive monthly as an opportunity for more resource development and connection. So those are the three big things we'll be working on with you all. John, if you want to go to the next slide, we do have some high-level topics that we're thinking will be important for the community of practice. Like I said, we'll be doing surveying throughout. So after every community of practice, we'll administer a survey. And if things are coming up, we will also add topics as we find that they're useful to you all. But the big topics we think will most likely be of value as the year goes on, and we'll be very strategic in when we place what, knowing what we know about how this unfolds. Like Lauren said, she just did this recently in New York City, so we're going to make sure we mine all the learnings that she had from that to inform how we set this up for this go round. So reflection on your current design and implementation, the strategic planning that you have in place, sharing plans with one another, problem solving together, figuring out how you'll build feedback loops with families and other stakeholders is incredibly important in this process. Goals-based systems for how you'll gather data, assessing the impact of your program in an ongoing way and in a summative way as well. As I mentioned, shared problems of practice, systems for continuing progress monitoring, what's most important to monitor, how to monitor it, and then what to do once you have that data. And then how to capture your key learnings at the end of this academic year as you revisit your strategic plan and make adjustments for the upcoming school year. That will be really important, so as to continue that continuous improvement approach. And then also how to budget and make this a sustainable project in the long term. We know this is an evidence-based intervention, and we also know that it's unlikely that at the end of this school year you'll be done with it. This will continue into the next school year, and thinking about how to budget for this in a sustainable way will be really important, because it is an investment that your district makes and will not always be a grant-funded initiative. So we like to think through the sustainability lens from the beginning. So those are some of the topics. Like I said, we will absolutely be gathering input on what you all need, because we want it to be highly relevant and contextualized to the to what you're working on. And that means we might break you up into smaller groups and have breakout spaces and things where you get to choose which is most relevant to you. It's really important to us that the time's valuable. So we're looking forward to get to know you all, and for you all to get to know each other, and are really excited about the opportunity to learn alongside all of you and bring our expertise and our national perspective to this local work.
Thanks, Meredith.
I think that's
Amanda. Thank you guys so much. For my school folks on here, my LEA team members, I want, well, two things. One is, we know that this is a big project, and so we want you to know that TNTP is here to support you and to help facilitate your learning, because for some this is going to be a new experience, right? It is for us at the state level, as it has been for many other states. So we want you to know that this is an extra layer of support that you can take advantage of as much as you want as you're building these programs. And TNTP, just like you all, had to go through a competitive process too, and they came out on top. And so we're really excited to have you guys on this project joining us and moving forward with us as well.
And John, there are a few questions in the chat.
Sure.
One of them, really, is it too late to opt into the community of practice, which I think you just kind of answered, but I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so great question. So everyone can do the community practice who is getting a grant. It's going to be open to everybody. And so those will start in January, and we're going to be sending around invites once we firm up those dates. So keep your eyes out for that.
Thank you. We also have about 4 other questions. I don't know if you want me to read them out or if you want to tackle them at the end.
Let's go through the 4 now, and then if any others come in, we'll go through them at the end.
there was a question on who they should speak to discuss and approve modifications such as total program length of time, start and stop dates, etc.
Great question. So thank you for that. So at the end, I'm going to send out this presentation, the recording. I'm also going to send out a spreadsheet with data on your LEA that you shared with us in your application and in your survey. And that spreadsheet is going to include your LEA's name, what schools you're focusing on, what grades, who your tutor organization is, when your start date, stop date is. This is all information we've collected from you, and we're just going to ask that you verify it. And if you want to make modifications, that's the place you can do it. You can just email us back and say, I need to change this or I need to change that. So that email will go out today or early next week.
And that ties into the other question, which will there be a process to revise the grant application? For example, if we cannot find a tutor on our own and we want to reach out to one of the vendors, would this be allowed?
Yep, you are. If you decided to go down the path of hiring internal staff and now you've decided you want to work with the vendor, that's totally fine. We encourage you to start that now, just given we all know how long it can take to find a contract. And two, just to keep us updated if you decide to change the source of the tutors.
Thank you, John. And then there was another question on the external evaluation that Ajit mentioned and sort of what that looks like.
Ajit, are you on the call still?
He left.
Okay. We are going to be providing more details on that, but at a high level, it's just assessing the impact of tutoring on students who received it compared to students who didn't, whether more tutoring is better, in what format is tutoring better, is it in person versus virtual, after school just versus during school. Those are the types of questions that we're going to be looking at, but that is sort of a whiles off, so we haven't yet solidified those plans.
Thank you. And then the other question in that round was, can you explain a bit more about submitting the budget and when we'll receive the grant certificate and contract?
Great question. That is actually the next slide. Was there something, Charlie, else?
I think another question just came in. Oh, some guidelines on contracting / invoice. So yeah, looks like we're
great.
Where we need to be.
So you all received an email from me in mid-October with an award amount. And so that was the first step, right, to kind of getting your funding, was that you would receive the amount of funding that you were eligible for. This funding can be used through January 2025, as I mentioned. The second step is within the next few weeks or so, we will upload into your LEA's EGMS system your grant allocation. And if you don't know what EGMS is, or if you're totally new to it, don't worry about it. We can talk about it offline, or you can go to your district's budget officer. They know exactly what this is. But the grant award will appear there. And again, this is funded by ARP ESSER, the federal grant that we received. While you're waiting for that to happen, we encourage you to send to your district budget officer, if they are the person responsible for this, the budget that was approved in your application. If you need to make some changes or tweaks, that's fine. If you need to make some really big substantive changes, though, we ask that you let us know first, because you were awarded based on the application you submitted, okay? But we ask that while you're waiting for that allocation to be uploaded, that you go back to your budget, see if you're comfortable with it still. And if you are, then you can send it to your district's budget officer, or whoever is your authorized EGMS access rep. And if you don't know who that person is, I can show you how to find it. So that when the allocation is in the grant system, it's ready to go. And we're asking that this be done by December 31st. So giving you about 2 months to finalize it and to send it off to your budget officer. Earlier is better, but you have 2 months for that. And then finally, once the budget is approved, in EGMS, you can begin to draw down funds. Now, couple of things. One is, as of this summer, all grants given by CSDE to school districts are on a reimbursement basis only. That was a big policy change that occurred this summer. So LEAs cannot draw down funding for prospective costs. It can only be used on a reimbursement basis only. That said, we review these quite regularly. So once you incur an expense, you can submit it to us and we will review it and approve it. We do it on a weekly basis, and then we can send the funds out. You can submit multiple funds requests. You don't need to use up all of your grant and then submit one big reimbursement request at the end. You can do this frequently. Another thing that's important to know, in addition to the date, is that you have to obligate your funds by September 30th of 2024. So you have a year to put in writing how you're going to use these funds, whether you're going to set up a new contract, whether you're going to purchase new materials, whether you're going to rent a space to facilitate the tutoring. All of that needs to be obligated by September 2024. And then you have until January of 2025 to liquidate, which basically means that you can pay for the services. This isn't, your district budget officer will know more about this, but this is important because obligate and liquidate mean two different things when it comes to paying people. If your district is going to be hiring a full-time staffer to be your program director, to serve as a tutor for students, those funds can only be used until September 30th of 2024, because the federal government says that full-time staffers cannot be, that liquidating those funds or paying for those types of individuals has to end on September 30th, 2024. However, if you are entering into a contract with one of those 16 organizations, that contract needs to be done by September 30th, 2024, but you can continue to pay them through January of 2025. So it's a very nuanced distinguishing factor here, and your district budget officer will know more, but I just wanted to give you all a sense of what's to come with that. Okay. Last two slides. Here's our timeline. We are now in fall 2023, so we are in this implementation period. As I mentioned, we will be kicking off our community of practice sometime in January of next year. That's also the last date which you can launch your HCT programming. And then you'll have until September 30th to obligate the grant funding, which means just to commit it in writing, and then January 2025 to liquidate. Okay. Here's our last slide, and then we'll turn it over to any other questions that might be out there. So just some reminders. One, we will send around a spreadsheet with information about your LEA after this call. Just check it. If there are changes you're making to the school or the schools you want to serve, if there are changes to where you source your tutors, if you decide to change who you're working with after this call, and if the number of students you decide to serve changes, please let us know. You can just email us back and we'll update your records. For this third point here, we ask that you do adhere to the number you noted in your application or survey, right? We know that precision here will be hard. If you said 80, that was probably an estimate of source. But if you said 80 in your application and you're now only planning on serving 30, we should have a conversation about that, because your grant was in part decided based on the number of students you were going to serve. If you want to go from 80 to 150, that's fantastic, and you can figure out how to do it within budget, great. But if you're going to make a significant reduction now after receiving the grant, please let us know or talk to us first, and we can sort through that. And then lastly, you have resources that are available. One, if you're not familiar with the National Student Support Accelerator, I definitely recommend checking them out. There's a bunch of toolkits and guides on there that they've been putting out over the last few years, ever since high dosage tutoring has become more established in education and K-12 education. So definitely recommend checking them out. Of course, you have the HTT team for right now that you can reach out to us over the next few weeks, myself, Charlie, and Ellen. And then you'll have each other, right? You'll have TNTP once the community of practice starts. And sometimes, you know, your peers and your colleagues are the most helpful of all of us. So with that, I'm going to end this slideshow. If you have no more questions, you're welcome to hop off, or if you want to stick around and listen to other people's questions, you're welcome to as well. But thank you so much. Congratulations again, and we're really excited to start this work with you all.
John, do you want me to stop the recording for the Q&A?
Or
leave it going?
We can keep it. Yeah, we can
Okay.
keep it, Charlie.
Great.
I'm trying to see what the last question asked was.
I think we're on Nicole's question.
Is it 2 questions?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Is it okay if we finish utilizing services funded by this grant prior to January 2025? Our numbers may change slightly because we had so many new students to the district that now qualified for this tutoring. Should we email you with those changes when it is minor? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine, Nicole. If you have changes to the number of students based on new additions, that's totally fine. And then if you want to finish services prior to January 2020, that's also fine as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I have a question from WIS Brantford. Can the funds be used in the summer as well as throughout the school year? WIS Brantford, I'm sorry, I don't know who your name. That is fine, so long as you are adhering to those guardrails, right? So it's still going to be small group. It still needs to be 3 times a week. There still needs to be a focus on grades 6 to 9, right? So that is fine, and we'll still ask to track, you know, how many hours of tutoring students are getting during the summer. So all of those things will still apply during the summer period. The only difference is it just won't be during a regular school day. Patricia, will the approved providers be having a meeting similar to this? We are not. No, we are not holding a similar meeting to this for the approved providers. They are mainly for you all to reach out and to communicate with. We identified ones that we thought were quality, that met our standards for this program, but some, you know, they are primarily for you all to learn more about and to work with if you find one or more than one that you like. Our vendor seems to be unable to meet our needs as of this morning. Do we have access to the list of vendors to look at? Yep, Lisa, I can. If you go to our CSD high dosage tutoring webpage, easiest way to get there is just to Google Connecticut High Dosage Tutoring Department of Education. You will find our webpage, and on that webpage is the list of the 16 vendors, and there's more detailed information on each of those vendors, and you can explore them. You can explore them more there. Thanks, Lisa. Jessica, can you clarify about the contract needing to end by September 2024? If we are providing services until January, I'm not sure. Yeah. So, again, Jessica, I would definitely recommend, and anyone who has questions about this, to check with your district budget officer. But the kind of high level takeaway here, and there's more nuance to this than what I'm saying, but federal law requires that these funds be obligated, which means that they're committed in writing by the end of September of next year, right? And the federal government has a very explicit definition of what obligate means. It allows for a grantee to liquidate funds, which means to pay for services, up until January of 2025. So if you are working with a contractor, one of these 16 vendors, you can have a obligated commitment to that vendor before September of 2024, and you can pay them up until January of 2025. But if your district wants to hire somebody full-time internally, then September 30th, 2024 is the final deadline which that person can be paid under this grant. If you want to use a different source of funding to have them continue past September 2024, that's totally fine. But for this grant, that's how the federal government distinguishes full-time employees versus contractors. Robert, we're looking to partner with the Great Oaks Foundation, which places core members as tutors for a single fee for this year. Is it possible to do this for the 2024 school year, or does Robert, it's a good question. I'd have to think about that. If you want to email me offline, I think there's probably a couple of things here to chat about, but we can talk about that offline if you want. Thank you, Charlie, for putting those links in the chat. Paul, given the formal award timeline and this meeting, is there a target or minimum length of weeks or months of tutoring? No, Paul. So we don't have a minimum amount of weeks or months. I don't think it will be worth your effort, though, if you make this program last 1 month, right, or 2 months. I would really shoot for a semester, if not 2 full semesters. 1 semester starting next January, and then if you can, 1 semester in the fall. We will, obviously see how many hours each of your students is getting when we collect that information, but there is no hard minimum. Scott, when I entered the number of students service, I was thinking now until June, and then another group September to January. Should I double my number? Some may overlap. So good question, Scott. We're looking for the unique number of students that are being served, right? So however many of individual unique students are being served between now and January 2025, that's the number we're asking for. Robert, we're also hearing some challenges from vendors and the number of students we can support, maybe depending on our vendor. We will probably need to update you with number of students we can support closer to January. Okay. Jessica, is there any expectation that students who participate this year would be the same as next year? Or, yep, you can certainly have the same students participate this year and next year. In fact, there's some people out there who believe that that's the best way to do it, right? Students who get it this year should continue to get it next year because it amplifies the impact that they're already having. Other schools are going to say, we're giving it to this subset of students this year. Next year, we want to diversify and share the love and give it to a different subset of students. So your school has the ability to choose which students, how many, and how often they're getting it. I think that's all the questions I see, Charlie and Ellen. Did I miss any, or if there's anyone who wants to go off mute, you're welcome to as well. If I missed one.
I think you've hit them all.
Are there any other points you guys would add? Any things that we missed?
You were very thorough, John. I think anything we missed, we covered in the questions. So I don't see anything else popping up here.
Okay, Pam, out of curiosity, how many applications were received? We received 80, and we chose 46, and then 44 decided to move forward. You're welcome. All right. Well, seeing no other questions, then I guess we can call it. As I said, we'll follow up with recording the slides and then that spreadsheet. So you can check that and verify if there's any information that's outdated or incorrect as of when you get it. But thank you again, everyone. Really excited to work with you all, and have a fantastic weekend. Happy Friday.